What if the world you live in is built on borrowed time? What if everything from your salary to the infrastructure around you, every social program, every war, every bailout is funded not by wealth, but by debt? Most schools never teach this. Most textbooks never mention it, because the truth is uncomfortable. Governments, banks, and corporations have quietly designed a system where the future itself is collateral. A system built to keep people working, nations borrowing, and economies running, all while silently enslaving generations yet to come. This is the story of the hidden architecture of global debt, a story of power, control, and the illusion of prosperity. The origins of global debt are older than most people think. Debt has existed in civilizations for thousands of years. Mesopotamia, Babylon, ancient Egypt, where borrowing wasn't just a financial tool, it was a method of control. Fail to repay your debt, you became a bonded servant, your family, collateral. Debt controlled life itself. Fast forward to the 17th century, and a new mechanism emerged. Central banking, the Bank of England, founded in 1694, allowed governments to borrow money for wars. In return, the bank had the power to create money out of debt. One truth became clear. Debt didn't just finance governments, it controlled them. And as centuries passed, this architecture became global. By the 18th and 19th centuries, European empires had mastered debt as a political tool. Lending to monarchs meant controlling territories. Wars were funded not by taxes alone, but by loans. Failure to repay could mean loss of colonies, resources, and trade rights. This was more than finance, it was geopolitics. Debt became the silent weapon of empire. In the United States, Alexander Hamilton pioneered a similar concept: assume state debts to centralize power, establish national credibility, and ensure loyalty. Debt wasn't a burden, it was a system of dependence. The 20th century accelerated this architecture. World War I and World War II left nations bankrupt. Governments turned to international lenders, creating global dependency. Post-war agreements like Bretton Woods and institutions like the IMF and World Bank institutionalized the system. Developing nations borrowed to rebuild. Debt repayment was enforced through policy, trade, and interest. Those who defaulted risked loss of sovereignty and resources. Debt was no longer just national, it became globalized, and it was carefully engineered to be perpetual. The biggest turning point came in 1971, when President Nixon ended the gold standard. Money was no longer backed by gold. It became faith-based, a promise rather than a tangible asset. This allowed governments and banks to create money from nothing, but there was a catch. Every dollar created was a debt. Someone had to repay it, and interest made it worse. Each borrowed dollar required repayment of more than $1. What seemed like infinite growth became an unseen trap. Governments could borrow endlessly. Citizens unknowingly shouldered the cost. Future generations inherited obligations they never agreed to. Today, the system is staggering. Global debt exceeds $300 trillion. Governments spend more on interest than on healthcare or education. Countries like Japan owe more than 260% of GDP. US national debt exceeds $34 trillion. Debt is no longer just a number, it's a structural dependency. Economies run on borrowed time. Growth is fueled by credit, not production. The architecture ensures the system continues. Bailouts, quantitative easing, student loans and mortgages, credit cards and consumer debt, each layer reinforces dependence for individuals, corporations, and nations. Governments have tried to fix the system. Austerity measures, tax hikes, spending cuts, money printing, but each fix only deepened the trap. Why? Because the system is built to grow perpetually and the world is finite. Every dollar of borrowed time consumes future resources and labor. Every temporary bailout becomes a new dependency. This is the invisible architecture most people never see, the engine of perpetual economic dependence. History offers stark parallels. Rome, debased currency gives societal collapse. France, assignats gives inflation and chaos. Weimar Germany, hyperinflation gives collapse. Modern world, unlimited fiat, unsustainable debt, and the patterns are repeating. Young people burdened with student loans, nations paying interest before investing in infrastructure, governments hiding deficits with accounting tricks. Debt is no longer a consequence, it is the system itself. Debt is a mechanism of control. It isn't accidental. It's engineered to create dependency. The future has already been sold. Many promises made today are obligations for generations who had no choice. Perpetual growth is an illusion. History shows that systems based on unlimited debt always reach a breaking point. The architecture of global debt is invisible, complex, and misunderstood. Yet, it shapes every decision, every policy, and every economy. One question remains. When the cost of borrowed time exceeds reality, what happens next? And will we see it coming before the consequences are unavoidable?